Today's guest is the owner of the Telesales Mastery Agency. This gentleman went from being in debt to earning six figures in his first year selling life insurance. And one thing I've noticed about him, he has a very strong presence on social media, a great YouTube channel, and he's got a really killer Facebook group that he's going to tell you about too. Mr. Johnny Nitafan, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure. It's cool because it's like one of those things where you think that the industry is so big, right? And so you're watching all this, trying to like digest and understand like what the industry is like, and then you're looking into it. You see David Duford, you see yourself, you see Cody Askins, and all these people, and then it's like it's a full circle moment to be able to actually come on here. Like 3.5, 4 years later, after getting hammered with ads, getting on the email list, it's like all of a sudden it's like, cool, we finally meet. So it's like I feel like I know you from I don't know, across the screen.
Awesome, man. Well, Johnny, let's jump into it. I think my viewers would love to know a little bit about you, maybe what you did before you got into life insurance sales.
Yeah, so I've always tried to be or been an entrepreneur. I've really started off with my trying to. I always had a unique experience, if that makes sense. So I've always wanted to do stuff that's not part of the status quo. So it all started when I was younger, trying to flip shoes, right, and trying to make money and going cold door knocking, and I wanted to be an NBA player, right? And so it's like I always took like a very non-traditional route. So it's like when I was in high school, I remember we did this. There was this performance or whatever it was, and so pretty much like a graduation ceremony. That's what it was. And so the seniors would walk with the kindergartners, and it was this like huge parade at our school. Well, I didn't really care because at that time I would always walk around campus with 10-pound ankle weights on each leg because I was like, I just want to be able to get faster. And I don't really care what I have to do to be able to do that. So anyways, long story short, I'm at this graduation ceremony and I'm like, you know what? Like this is how I am anyway. So I'm just going to do it. And so I remember there's a picture of me and we're walking these like through this parade and I got the ankle weights on. And so I think that's why I've always just been like, I don't really care what I have to do. I don't care about the optics of what it looks like. I'm just going to do what I need to do to be successful. And so that's what it started. I was in New Mexico at that time. From there, decided to continue to pursue my basketball dreams. So moved from New Mexico here to Arizona, and then decided, hey, I don't want to do that anymore. But I raised about $8,000 at that time.
Life insurance agents, if you'd like 20 life insurance appointments on your calendar every single day, all set by the clients themselves who expect to speak with you about burial life insurance, or if you'd like a copy of the free new agent remote sales file, lots of killer sales materials here, email me at doug@ufesonline.com or just click on the link below in the description.
So from there, I took all that money, dumped it into my first business, which was the clothing line called More Apparel, and I just wanted to spread the message. And the reason why I started the clothing line was because my dad was like, "Hey, you're like, it's crazy that everybody's clothes are like you're like we're all walking billboards. It's just like, what message are you actually portraying?" And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to start a clothing line. I want to spread the message. Everybody's wearing clothes. And so did that. Was a terrible business to start with. I definitely wouldn't recommend doing that to anybody because the margins are so low. I didn't know how to sell. I didn't know how to market. I didn't really have any skills, but I had a lot of enthusiasm. And so at that time, dumped a lot of money into it, was just like trying to start vlogging. So if you go to my YouTube channel, I still have the vlogs of like trying to launch my first clothing line on the channel. And so started there. Then from there, moved into, I did that for 6 months. It didn't do great, but I sold about 100 pieces of clothing line to a lot of friends and family. And some people from social media. Was about to get like a speaking tour, lined up a few schools to go out, but then COVID happens. So that kind of like stopped all that. And then from there, decided to just, hey, you know what? It's COVID. I'm just going to work as much as I can. So I worked at Starbucks, and at that time, found my wife. And so we ended up dating, getting engaged, getting married. And then that's when I really was like, you know what? The month after we got married, I was like, driving into work, and I was like, I really need to find another opportunity that I could actually make a way more than like 30,000 a year. So luckily, her dad actually sold his agency in insurance, and not life insurance, but in health insurance, business to business. So that's when I ventured into the industry, and that's how I really got my start into selling insurance at that time.
All right. So how old were you at that time when you first got introduced to insurance?
Yeah, so I was 20. So we got married at 20, and I remember him sitting me down, and he was like, "Hey," because I told his like when I asked for their blessing, I was like, here's my plan. And I just laid everything out, and it was I was intimidated, right? Because I was like, you know what? He's like super successful. He's made millions of dollars, like, and I'm going here, and I'm not going to be able to provide at the level he's at right now. And so I just remember line by line, like, okay, this is going to be our budget. This is what I'm going to do. This is my plan, my 3 to 5 year plan. And essentially, it was just like, hey, I'm going to work full time and go to school. But I always didn't believe it. I remember if you look on my YouTube channel, like there's a vlog that I made, and I was like, I'm headed into college right now, and I don't really know why I'm going because I believe more in real world experience and on the job training versus just like book knowledge. But I'm just gonna go anyway. And then it was just like it clips to me like in class, and I was like, you know what, I passed the test, whatever. But I ended up failing 3 semesters in a row after that. And so I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna drop it. And that's when I got married and so on and so forth. So um yeah, he introduced me at that time and then started selling B2B. So I was doing door knocking, like it was an agency that just broke off from Aflac, and so we were selling voluntary benefits, door knock 30 to 40 businesses a day. And so just cold door knocking, no leads or anything. So I remember hearing on YouTube that you can actually buy leads. And I was like, it was a crazy moment. And so I was like, you know what? I could literally make so much money doing it. So I was like 2 months into actually door knocking. And then I go to my wife and I was like, hey, I think I should start selling life insurance. And I pitched it in a way that was like, she's like, yeah, that sounds like a pyramid scheme like that. How are people getting rich so quick? And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna silence it a little bit. But I kept like consuming YouTube, and I was like, no, this is real. Talked to a lot of people, just like pretty much any person that I actually looked up to, or like there was an interview just like this, I would like reach out to their phone number, or, like reach out to them on Instagram or whatever, and started just having conversations and asking and doing my due diligence, right? And so long story short, I went back and I was like, you know what? I'm equipped with all the ammo. I'm going to go back to her and be like, you know what? This is actually what I want to do. So it was after about 3.5 months being in insurance, I was like, you know what? I'm going to pivot to life insurance. And then it was March of 2022 that I started selling life insurance.
All right. So talk to me once you made that decision, you started, I guess, buying leads. Talk to me
Mm-hmm.
about that first 6 months.
Well, it was actually crazy and very non-traditional to most people. So I got in, bought aged leads, and I remember my first day. Like I remember, I was like, I've door knocked, I've spent money on gas, and I've literally worked no leads. So if I could work a lead, I do not care. I'll work 12 hours a day and hammer these people. So I remember my first day setting 17 appointments. Because at that time it was mortgage protection, and so I was just like calling these aged leads, and I was making hundreds of dials in that time. And I set those appointments, and my first week set like 25 appointments and 2 showed up. And it was just absolutely terrible. The show rate was horrible. I was just setting a lot of appointments, but I was like, you know what? This is the thing that's always weaved into my story is like, if I can outwork everybody and just like do the amount of reps, I don't even have to be good, but I'm going to get so much more feedback that I can actually become good in a certain amount of time. So that's when I just set a bunch of appointments, got a lot of feedback, did it again, so on and so forth. But 3 weeks into it, I get a call from Cody Askins, and he's like, "Hey, we want you to be a part of the first season of Ultimate Agent." And I remember putting my name in the hat, and I was like, "You know what? Like, I'm brand new to the industry. There's no way, but I'm going to do everything it takes." And so I remember I really tried to get creative with what I did. And so I remember tagging him in a post and like had everybody that I knew just hammer him and tag him just to get his attention. And so there's probably like 150 people tag him at one time. And I remember like that got his attention. Another thing, I sent him a handwritten card why I should do it. Sent that to his office with like free burrito gift cards from out here. With like, and then I was like, you know what? What he wants is a sponsor. And so I remember going to one of my people that was at Starbucks that was a regular, and he's like, him and I had a really good relationship, and I was like, hey, I really want the opportunity to get onto the show. Can you sponsor it? And so I remember getting him and closing him on a sponsorship even before I was picked. And so all these different things that I was like, you know what, how do I give him what he wants so I can maybe get what I want? And I remember all these things, and then all of a sudden Ultimate Agent comes, and then that was a boom at that time. And I think it was a lot of learning, and it was a good way to be able to get into a network of like people that are high level all around the industry. The Nate Offerts, the Roger Shorts, the Cody Askins, David Price, like all these big people, you get exposure to them, and like you build a really close connection with these people. They've all kind of like played into my story along the way. So I think it was definitely interesting. It was a lot of stuff was given to me, and I kind of got lucky in that way. And so I learned a lot as far as like how to actually build long-term relationships and not be transactional, because I think a lot of the relationships that I built early on was like, what can you do for me? And not like a two-way street. And so it's like those relationships, like I messed them up, some of them. And so it's like if I were to go back in time, it's because it's like given instead of earned, right? So it's like I'm brand new to the industry. I'm trying to figure out how to like just run business in general. And then you also are brand new to this specific industry where everybody's trying to recruit each other, which I didn't know at that time. So it's like, okay, that sounds way better. I'm just going to jump ship, burn the bridge, and go here. And then I'm going to do the same thing again. And so I was at 5 different IMOs my first like 12 months. It was terrible. So I,
Sounds
that
familiar, man. That's it
yeah.
does sound familiar. A lot of agents
Yeah.
have to go through that, man. So I get it.
Yeah. So it was definitely challenging, to say the least. But it was more non-traditional than most people see in the industry, right? But the thing that stands true and stands familiar with everybody is you're going to get in the industry and you think that IMO is the best IMO and the best agency. And then all of a sudden, like everybody's talking about how good that IMO is. And then there's a certain point that you may have a bad week. You may have more chargebacks than usual. You may buy leads and you don't make the sales. And you're like, hey, maybe is this the system that I should be working? So then you go down the rabbit hole and you start seeing all these other people and get exposure. And you're like, no, the reason why I'm not successful is because I'm not at this IMO. So then you switch, get releases, get contracts, whatever, you move, and you're like, hey, this is it. And then the cycle continues. But the way I was able to actually finally get out of that cycle was like, hey, you know what? I was at 4 different IMOs, and I remember in the shower listening to Jim Rohn, and he was like, the person you are right now has attracted the circumstances you're living. And so if you want to change the circumstances, if you're up, you can't be upset at the circumstances because you attracted it. So if you want to attract new circumstances, you have to change. You have to be the change. So I was like, dang, it's not the IMOs, because I was at the biggest IMOs. I would interview a lot of the big people, right? The biggest IMO, I remember like interviewing him, and a lot of the stuff he was saying, like I already had at the IMO I was with. So I remember all this stuff, and I was like, dang, like it's really me. And that moment like hit me like a ton of bricks. And it was really hard to be like, you know what? I've been through all these places, I've tried all these lead vendors, but the reality is I need to change. So then that's when I had to do some soul searching and be like, you know what actually needs to change? What's lacking? What am I missing? I know how to sell, but I'm actually going broke. Like this doesn't make any sense. I've sold $300,000 of AP, but like I'm $15,000 in debt. I'm way worse of a spot than I was right now. Like I was on the top of the leaderboards on agency meetings, but I'm broke. Like this, like what's not adding up? I don't like this doesn't make any sense. And so that's when the like a real reality check happened for me.
That's pretty awesome, man. Most people don't get that thing where that aha moment where that light comes on and they realize maybe it's not the leads. Maybe it's not the upline. Maybe it's me. They
Yeah.
just most don't. But that's that. I had a situation. I had something like that happen with me a couple of times. And when that light comes on and you actually do the work to make the change, this is a pretty sweet business. Pretty darn sweet. All right, so let's talk a little bit about your agency. At what point did you decide, hey, I think I want to start my own thing. I want to bring in agents and teach them how to do what I'm doing.
Yeah, I started recruiting from an early point on, specifically just brokers. And then I remember at that time, I kind of went through just like coaching a lot of agents and just kind of like seeing a lot of different things. Like, okay, what's actually working, what's not. A lot of stuff started working for me, and it's especially the lead gen side. And so then I started posting a lot of content about it. And then a lot of people just were like, hey, can you just do it for me? Can you like teach me whatever? So did that, and then I was like, you know what, I want to go back into like actually doing this thing, and just like instead of just like talk about it, like actually do it. And I think that's another thing that a lot of people like, you look at these people and you're like, how, what have you actually done? And so like I'm like, you know what, I'm never gonna have somebody ask me that and not have proof behind it, because it's like, yeah, you've done it a little bit ago, but like what have you done recently? And that's just the best proof overall. And so long story short, went back into the agency, and this was about 7 months ago. We started a free lead program, and so that's where we're at today. Essentially, is like free having a free lead program. Another thing that we're really trying to build out is our broker program as well. So we have the free lead side, that people come in, you get free leads, lower comp, etc. And we'll pay for all your dialer, CRM, etc. But then also the broker side of like the career side. Like if you've come in, you have the resources, you have the experiences, you are ready to take it to the next level, like you're going to make way more money. And my thought process was always like, you're not going to get rich on a free lead program. And I've seen like some of your videos, and a lot of the stuff that you're saying is like absolutely like 100% agree, because you're not going to make the most money in a free lead program, right? The biggest thing that my thought process with it was, the thing that will take you to a 6 to 7 figure a year income is skills. And if you go into a broker thing with literally no skills and limited resources, you are going to fail. That's why there's such a higher failure rate. And so I want to be able to create an engine that allows people with no skills, no resources to be able to come in if they are coachable and they have an A-type personality, if they're actually a go-getter, that they can build the skills to then monetize later. Because if you think about it, right, like a very pop like thing right now is Alex Hormozy, right? He just does like $100 million 9-figure launch, which is like unheard of. Like it's just absolutely insane, right? But if you think about it, he went 3.5 years selling not much. Like, yeah, he was sold to like a very few people, which was to buy businesses, but before it's like it was 3.5 years that he developed this audience to have this monetization like this. And so I think for agents to be able to have a massive payday, you can't expect it right up front. You have to build the engine, you have to get the real world experience, the knowledge, the wisdom, the insights, learn it, and then go into monetize it later. Because the cool thing about skills is that a lot of times it takes a lot of refinement, but once you crack it, you will get rich faster than you think. And that's where the overnight successes come. But it's really like the 3.5 years of grinding and hustling and going through the reps to be able to then monetize later. That's kind of my thought process with it. On that side. So yeah.
And you know what? And I agree with you. And I also feel like there's multiple personalities, right? Everybody's different. There is that group of individuals where they don't do well under the pressure of having to kill what they eat, so to speak. And so, that pressure of, oh, I need money for leads next week. If I don't sell now, it kind of messes with them, as to where there's a lot of people, they're just more relaxed. They're like, they don't have to worry about the leads. I don't need to worry about paying for leads. I just need to concentrate on selling. And I think that really resonates with a lot of people. So kudos for you for doing that and having both of those options. Now,
yeah, it's definitely an expensive shop, to say the least, right? And so it's like one of those things that's why we've definitely like been looking to expand the broker side, because the broker side is interesting, because from an agency owner perspective, you're taking the risk on the back end because you're co-signing the debt, but also you're not taking the upfront risk. And so that's one of the things that it's like you weigh the pros and cons of it all, like as an agency owner, right? So there's pros and cons to both of them.
Let's talk a little bit about leads.
Yeah.
What type of leads are you generating? Are you generating them?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about what you're doing for your agents.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't know. Like, I actually have a business partner that I've interviewed him a few times on the channel, but like he runs all of our marketing on the back end. So if you've ever seen an ad of me, if you've ever like seen our ads, like he's running all of it, and so I like have access into it. Like I know how to run the marketing. He's really the marketing head behind it, and so we generate all of our leads internally. And I think that one of the questions that you brought up, and a lot of people ask, like, hey, should I generate leads or should I hire somebody else to like build it? And I personally, it really depends where you are in your journey. But I think if you are right now as a solo producer and you want to just make as much money as possible, you should spend all your time selling. And that's all you should focus on because that's what's actually making you money. So you delegating that, having somebody else do it for you that does that all day is something I highly recommend. I think if you're wanting to, there's like it's an interesting like teeter totter because I think at a certain point, like you should have the marketing internally. But like for me, it's like for me to get to the next level, even I'm like, I can't even focus on, I shouldn't even be focusing on the marketing side. Like, it's way better for me to train agents. And so I think there's sometimes where you could just streamline it, but you have to find a really solid partner and vet somebody that you could actually have a partnership perspective. So some people do profit sharing with like a lead vendor, not a lead vendor, but like a marketer. Some people actually bring them in house and actually partner up together. And so I think that there's a next level that like, hey, hire somebody to do it. But then the next level, if you really want to grow with somebody, is like do a rev share, do a partnership, something like that, a joint venture to where you're not having to focus on the marketing specifically because all the money is like that. Like you see these bigger people, especially on YouTube, they all have a marketing guy behind them. They're not actually the ones doing it, but they're generating it. They have the benefit of doing it. So I definitely recommend hiring somebody to do it. I think there's a fundamental knowledge that you should have that you could actually speak to it and have accountability. But I think if you're just starting out, just hire somebody else to do it. And then all you have to do is focus on selling.
And look, coming from experience, I agree with that. Now, we know that there's got to be somebody watching this video that's like, well, I've run some ads, so I can do it to a point, or some people can actually just flat out do it. When
Yeah.
a few years ago, when we started our preset appointments platform, we were setting up the advertising funnels on the agents' Facebook and Instagram,
Yeah.
and we were teaching them how to take care of it themselves, and most of them couldn't do it. We learned the hard way right from the start. We were like, what are we doing? And then we figured, okay, it's easier if we just run it and manage it ourselves from our system. And that's just the simple fact. I'm one of those people. I used to generate Facebook leads. I used to even sell them at one point to our agents. And once the technology got more intensive, and then you got the advertising funnels, the people that use the advertising funnels, it's so much that like I can admit it, that's a little bit beyond me. Yeah, I can film, I can edit, I can even create a website, but generating leads through an advertising funnel, that's a lot of moving parts, even for someone like me. So it makes absolute sense. Now, what about agent resources? You know, a new agent watching this is like, where can I get more information, more resources? Are there any books that you would recommend or anything like that?
Yeah. As far as just so I know, like, are you talking about insurance related or are you talking about just in general? What are you talking about?
Insurance or sales related?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the best things is you should just develop yourself as a person. Self-development is one of the things that I like highly recommend just anybody to do is if you're newer into insurance or not. Um, your income will never outgrow long term your self-development. So it's like if you're not where you want to be is like financially, there's something in your character, there's something in your self-development that you need to grow in, right? Whether that's discipline, whether that's being able to face adversity, whether that's being able to manage and have hard conversations, whether that's leading, whether that's sales, whatever it is, right? There's something lacking. in your personal development. And that's why you see people who win the lottery, they all of a sudden, most of them go broke way later. It's because they had the income come up, but their self-development's down here, and then all of a sudden their income will match all the time over a long period of time. So what I suggest is everybody needs to read uh Think and Grow Rich. That's one of the books that was fundamental
Classic.
for me. Uh, just like that's the holy grail for self development and especially getting into the business world. I think as far as like books go, I've never read. I don't think I've read one insurance book, and that was when I was like doing B2C stuff. I think there's so many resources on YouTube, so many resources like your channel, my channel. There's other people's channels that you can like go down and research. But I think the biggest thing um, is understanding like sales at a fundamental basis. Like, okay, human psychology. How do you actually like if you're selling final expense, if you're selling like anything that's like a one call close, mortgage protection, general life, etc. I think the basics that you need to nail down is your intro, nail down like kind of the discovery process, nail down like product a little bit, and then nail down objection handling. If you can do that and then have a decent lead source, you're going to be doing well. And then the next thing is just activity, making sure your activity is where it needs to be and should be. And whatever your mentor says, do double or triple that. Because at the start, like they're going to say as much as you should, but if you actually want to be the top of the top, that's like a barometer that you need to exceed that way more. If you just want to be average. And another thing that kind of like triggers me a little bit is when people are like, okay, what are average people doing? What are average people? I'm like, do you want to be average or do you want to be great? Like, okay, this is what the most people do. You should really look to exceed that if you want to be great. And so there's like a lot of resources that we have is like helping you with that. But I think the number one thing that I think a lot of people struggle with is they don't have the self-development aspect down. They are they're immature, right? I was immature when I was like trying to figure everything out. There was like a small scale fame where it's like I'm at 8% and like so many people are coming up to me and knowing who I am. And it's like take 3 steps and like there's like a crowd of people talking to you. And my self development wasn't where it should have been. And so it's like that opportunity came and went, right?
Right.
And it's one of those things that I learned a lot. And if I had to go back, there's things that I changed, but also I wouldn't be where I am today if it weren't for those learning moments and opportunities that I feel like I missed out on.
Excellent. All right. Now, you're speaking with an agent. What is it you look for as, seeing this agent as a possible recruit? They're interested in maybe working with you or for you, either way. And what is it you're looking for?
I think having an open mind and coachability is one of the things because like if I say to do something like, hey, ask this a certain way, I don't want if there's resistance there, I think it's really hard to actually coach and develop somebody when they're not actually like looking to you to lead. And so there has to be a mutual level of trust. I trust that you're going to do 100% and you're going to give your best because you have other motives, right? You want to succeed for your family, you want to have big dreams, big goals, etc. But there has to be a mutual level of trust that I'm going to do the same for you. And if either of us are not holding up our ends, we need to have a conversation without our emotions involved. I need the accountability, like, hey, you said you're going to do this and you didn't. I need to take accountability and say, I need to get better. I'm going to do that and work and continue to improve. Same thing for you. If I say, hey, go through the script 10 times, you should do it. Come back to me, say, hey, I did it. Now what do I need to do? So I think coachability, I think also going the extra mile is another thing. And also like, that goes for activity, that goes for showing up early and staying late. Like it's the intangibles on that side. Another thing is like, hey, if we have training, show up to the training with your camera on. Like actually do what you're going to say you're going to do and like engage with the training. And one of the things that there was an agent that came, he did $20,000 his first month like as a part-time person in our free lead program.
Nice.
And I remember like I was trying to like diagnose like and understand, okay, what has this guy done? And I think one of the things that really stood out for him is we have like this whole like training program built out for whenever somebody says, yes, I'm ready to go, I want to join. We start the contracting process, and then they go in and start the training program. And it's just like a course, like a crash course, going over everything you need from like insurance and what that is, and all the different terminologies, the sales, everything you need to know, the objections, live calls, etc. Well, a few days later, after he came in, I was like, hey, go through these materials. He comes back and he's starting to ask questions based on the trainings he just listened to. And I was like, that guy knows what he's talking about. He's like, why are we writing these carriers when there's XYZ carriers on the market and you said nothing about those? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? And that's like, that guy knows what he's talking about. Either this guy's going to be a biggest waste of time, or he's going to exceed further than most people have been. And so that was something that really caught my attention when I heard him say that, like asking questions like, hey, why do we not write Direct Express? This guy's more newer into the industry. And I was like, wow. He's like, why do we not write GI? Like all these different questions. I was like, this guy is really understanding and plugging in, and like just asking questions based on the trainings. That was like that was something that really like caught my attention. So I think when somebody's coming in and I'm like, hey, this guy's actually going to succeed, I think going the extra mile, being coachable and open-minded. And another thing is just hungry, right? Like hungry, ready to get after it, not thinking they're going to be better than they think they're going to be. So I think there's a level of entitlement some agents come into the industry with, like, hey, because you're my upline, you should do all these things for me. It's like, I get to choose to work with you just like how you get to choose to work with me. So you're not entitled to anything. And I'm not entitled to anything either, right? Just because I'm your upline doesn't mean that I can do nothing and just make the overrides. Like there's a mutual level. It goes back to the mutual level of trust. So I think those are the biggest things that I would say for agents that I'm like really looking to work with.
You've obviously got a working system. You've got a plug and play system. It works for agents. What do you think are the reasons that the agents that come into your agency and fail? Why do they fail? Meanwhile, you've got these other agents that are making it happen.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that there's various reasons of why that could happen. I think number one is the a lot of times actually going through sales, you have to stay level-headed no matter what comes your way. And so I remember like there was like some like just crazy stuff that happened to me. And I remember showing up, doing the training just like usual. And I told like a few of my agents later, like, hey, this is what happened. And they're like, dude, like I would have never known that like something big just happened. And I think like you have to kind of go through that in the sales side. Like, hey, if you have highest highs, lowest lows, if you see $5,000 get deposited one day, but you see $10,000 worth of chargebacks happen, you literally have to maintain the same level of focus and same level of energy, right? Napoleon Hill talks about it like the biggest indicator of success is somebody actually being able to go from loss to loss without a loss of enthusiasm. I don't those aren't the exact words, but I think like having that mentality, like, hey, I just got to think about an objection. I just got to charge back. I just actually made a sale. I just made 5 sales in a day. Like being able to maintain the same level of mind, no matter what's going on, I think is a big indicator that people who people who come in and they see like big quick wins, make 3 sales at first. I remember my brother, right? My brother came in and brand new agent. He just dropped out of college because of how well he was doing. But anyways, he comes in February. First 3 days, he's dialing 2 to 3 year old, like just old leads, right? Makes a sale every single day, his first 3 days. And I was like, well, like me and a few of our sales guys were like, we know what's going on. Like we know what he's dialing on. Like how is he doing this? Like it was just crazy. Well, after the 3 days he made sales, and he actually almost made 2 sales in like 2 of those days, but there was like a logistical thing that happened. And I was like, this is like literally insane, and I don't want his mind to be like warped if he doesn't make a sale in a day, because like he's dialing not great leads right now and he's crushing. So anyways, he goes, after that happens, he goes 3 weeks not making a sale, and he almost quit. And he's like, you know what? Like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do. And then spring break comes, and all of his friends go to Mexico to hang out, party, etc. And he's like, you know what? I'm gonna stay and I'm gonna lock in, and I'm just gonna make it happen. And I was like, and he told me this later. Anyways, he has his biggest week. He has 10.5K in approved business that week. And I was
Awesome.
like, what in the world happened? So that was transformational because I remember getting on the phone after he did $4,000 in a day. And I was like, what happened? What changed? He's like, dude, last week I was like terrified to call you because I was about to quit the industry and I was about to just be done with it because they're like, this is definitely not for me, blah, 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 all this stuff, right? But then he does this, and then now it's all of a sudden the greatest industry ever. And so I think the lesson in all of that is you have to stay level headed, whether you make a few sales in a day, few sales in a row, and you crush it, or you go 3 weeks without making a sale, or you go 3 weeks with the terrible weeks you've ever had, or you've bought leads and you or generate leads and it didn't go your way at that time. Sometimes you actually have to see that through. So being able to go through the adversity, the ups and downs, and not like letting your lows get too low and your highs get too high, but being able to stay consistent that, hey, this is a marathon, this isn't a sprint. And that's being more and more, I'm reminded of that more and more that like, hey, this is not a, what can I do in the next 30 days? What can I do in the next 60 days? What can I do in the next 90 days? But like, who are actually people that are still producing 3 years later? Like, I think about the people who I came into this business with 3 years ago. Like, there are barely any people still around. Like, it's just insane. So think about it like, hey, if you actually want long-term success, what would the long-term success look like in this moment right now? You're going to be able to get through it. It's not the end of the world. But to be able to get through that, you have to be able to get to that spot where you're having a consistent 6 figures a year, year over year increase in production, increase in net income. You have to be able to ride out the bad months because those are going to happen.
What advice would you give a new agent who's wanting to build a team, have their own agency?
I would say just buckle up and get ready to deal with a lot of stuff because there's a level of accountability that you have. Like, hey, if I don't make the money that I want to make, that's on me because I'm a solo producer. But when it's on a team, it's like it's a little bit different. Another thing I would say is, and this is a mistake that I made multiple times, and if I were to go back just starting out, I would have just told myself this. I remember listening, there's a guy um in the industry, kind of newer in the industry, but he made like a really solid point. And he said, when you're trying to build, you always eat, like whenever you're eating, you always eat dinner first, then you eat dessert. Okay. So your dinner, you never forsake the dinner to be able to get the dessert because you're going to get sick, right? So, and you're just going to get out of shape, whatever. So you want to make sure you're full from dinner, then you get dessert. So what the example in this situation is, make sure your dinner is your personal production. Make sure you are locked in. Make sure you're hitting your 30 to 50,000 a month, whatever you're doing. Make sure you hammer that. And then your dessert, your icing on the cake is your recruiting, because it's not going to be the stuff today. The amount of overrides that you're going to make compared to what you can make on your personal production is like a tenth or an eighth or a fifth or even half, right? Half is a lot, but like say it's a quarter, right? A quarter of people have to make sale, or four times the amount of sales have to be made for an override to equal what your commission would be on a sale. So make sure you have that consistent personal production, and then you can actually, once that supplements and actually makes all of what your personal production would be, then it makes sense to go all into that. And I've made that mistake, unfortunately, like so many times. And even running the free lead program, it's like I produced a lot at the start. Then I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna just focus on these top guys. And guess what? Revenue dropped. The reason why is because I didn't stay in the field, and I think it's good because it's also accountability. And I've seen more loyalty within the team when I'm actually producing, because it's like, you know what? You're going through this with me right now. So long story short, I think make sure your personal production is on point. Make sure you're hitting the numbers that you need to be able to pay your bills. Because the reality is, if you fail, there's no agency. That's just it. You can't build an agency if you fail. If you can't even pay your bills, there's no agency that's going to be had. So you have to stay in the game as well. And so there has to be a long-term vision that, hey, I don't want to personally produce forever, but I'm going to do what's required right now so that I can actually get to that spot. Because if you don't stay alive right now, there's nothing that happens in the future.
What advice would you give a brand new agent so that they could actually have better results, basically a higher chance of being successful right out the gate?
I would say like just be willing to lock in for like 6 days a week and be willing to go through the next 3 months and just mentally commit to whatever you think that you're gonna hit as far as an outcome goes. Bring that down by half, because if you out it yeah, bring that down by half, and then whatever amount of activity you think you need to do to be able to hit that goal, double that. So it's like have more input and less output that you expect, because once you actually do more than that, then you're going to be like, oh geez, like there's a quick win that's involved. And once you have a quick win that's involved, then you're able to see it long term. Most people actually stay with it longer term. I think the reason why my brother was able to stay in the game was because he had those quick wins, those 3 sales back to back to back. He's able to stay in the game, and now he's actually just moved over to our broker side, starting to pay for his own leads, etc. And it's like, hey, I want to take this to the next level. So that stuff can happen, but you have to like change your expectations of what you think the future is going to be like. So I think that's number one as far as like a brand new agent seeing success. I think another one is don't believe all the smoke and mirrors that you see on social media people doing. Like there is a lot of people doing amazing things in the industry, but it's a tiny percentage of what you actually think. And so a lot of people look like they're doing way better than they actually are. And I think it's hard to actually understand who's winning and who's not in this industry from the start, because you're seeing these people post $150,000 months, 200,000, 5 million a month, whatever it is, and it's like, are like how well are they actually doing? You think they're doing amazing, but that's not the money they're actually making. And so, I think it's don't believe everything that you see online or on social media, and understand this is not just like a get rich quick opportunity. Like if you actually want real sustainable income, yeah, you can make quick money, but also like that money could get charged back as quick as it came. So you have to see this is a long-term business that you have to see things through. Um, I think that's one of the biggest pieces of advice that I would give just to a new agent. Find somebody you can actually trust that's going to tell you the truth, that's going to be honest with you, and kind of help you navigate this whole industry, because it's like it is a lot of smoke and mirrors, unfortunately.
Yep. Unfortunately, yeah, a lot of information is exaggerated by marketers, and unfortunately, that is the norm in our industry. Johnny,
Yeah,
great information. Thank you for all the content. I think the viewers are going to be able to get a lot out of this, not just a little. I think we need to do this again. Either way, man, appreciate
I
you being
agree.
here.
Yeah, appreciate you too, man. And guys, like Doug is one of those people that's like a trusted source in the industry. I definitely recommend like whatever he's saying, like listen to what he's saying, because you don't see somebody like actually have longevity in this business. And I think it's something that I really highly commend you for. So love what
Cool.
you're doing
Thank
as
you.
well. Yeah.
Excellent. All right, buddy.